Welcome to the Hocker Heights Politics and Policy Update. I am your host, Gina Pence with the Hocker Heights Chamber of Commerce. And today our segment will be covering state representative for Texas House District 54. And, one of the things I want to make sure our audience knows is who goes out and votes for District 54. Well, District 54 is part of Bell County and all of Lampasas. And we were just discussing this, and there is 11 school districts in District 54. So that is a lot for District 54. We know that, with Killeen ISD being the largest. And today we are honored to have Dr. Brad Buckley with us. So thank you, sir, for taking the time.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. It's an important time of the year, and I appreciate what the Hocker Heights Chamber does for our community all year long, but also this is really important.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that, sir. So, our audience today, if you will kind of share with them, I know that we have a lot of new citizens in District 54, a little bit of background about yourself and why you are choosing to run for this re-election.
Yeah. You know, my story is kind of quintessential Central Texas. It begins in 1955 when my mom and dad met in the 7th grade in Killeen schools. My dad the son of a football coach and a first grade teacher, and my mom was here because her dad was stationed at Fort Hood. Mm-hmm. And so of course that sparked, and then eventually they married, and after college came back to town where my dad worked at Fort Hood Civil Service in what's now known as resource management. My mother was a lifelong educator, first grade teacher, and also was the early childhood specialist. So she worked with youngsters, with little kids. She was a strong advocate for reading. Then as I grew up, I graduated from Ellison High School in Killeen. I met my wife in senior English at Ellison. She's an Ellison grad as well. And she was here because her dad was stationed here. Her dad retired here as a warrant officer, and he was a Vietnam veteran. Then he worked for the Greater Killeen Chamber of Commerce after retiring. And so Susan and I both graduated from Texas A&M, and I went to veterinary school, and Susan managed a grocery store, and we came back to Killeen to go to work, and Susan began to teach marketing because she's a marketing major at Ellison High School, and I was a practicing veterinarian. And then as things moved along, she became a assistant principal and now an administrator over the high school and middle schools in Killeen ISD. I continued to grow my practice. We have 3 kids. They all 3 graduated from Killeen ISD schools, 2 Ellison Eagles and 1 Killeen Kangaroo. And my all 3 kids are Aggies. So the daughters have graduated from Texas A&M. They're now in the workforce. And my son is a junior at A&M. And my son-in-law is also an Aggie. So we have a lot of Aggies in the family. And one of the things that about my background is very early on, I was around a lot of good people in this area that encouraged me to serve. And so I served 2 terms on the Killeen ISD School Board. I'm a former chairman of the board of the Greater Killeen Chamber of Commerce. Susan and I were former board members of the Viva Las Arts Society in Killeen. I served on the board of the Peaceful Kingdom Retreat for Children, and currently I'm the vice chairman of the Fort Hood Region Economic Development Corporation, known as 14 Forward, which is a group of private investors that are working very hard to bring economic development and better paying jobs to this region, to improve our internet bandwidth and speed, and to also improve infrastructure and our quality of life. And so my life has been filled with a wonderful professional life where I have been honored to take care of animals that belong to folks all over Central Texas, and also a life of service where I've been able to give back to the community in a way that I hope is meaningful. And it's a great community. My family, we love it here. We live between Hocker Heights and Salado on a little ranch where we have horses, also have a commercial cattle operation. And then also on the sideline, my wife and I have a commercial real estate business as well that we've been able to have over the years. So it really is a great place to live and work, go to school, raise your family, and do business. And it's just great to be here. And I'm really honored to represent this district in Austin because it is such a wonderful district, really a snapshot of Texas.
Well, thank you for that. I think we all learned something a little
Yeah.
bit today about Brad and his family, so
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So we're just going to go into a few questions, and first of all, though, Dr. Buckley, if you could kind of share with us before we go into the questions, why have you chosen to run for re-election?
Well, the reason to run when I ran last time, and it sort of it'll go on and it will speak to why I ran this time, was that there were some things I wanted to accomplish, some things I felt like we had opportunity to do, and I felt like I had the skills to do it. And so I'm a passionate advocate for our public schools. I'm an advocate for our communities and our veterans. I'm an advocate for creating an environment where business can thrive. And so I felt like last session we were able to do good things on all those areas. I literally made a list of things I wanted to accomplish, and we developed a plan and hired a staff that I felt like could uniquely try to solve those problems. But more than just a staff, we also engaged with local folks back here in the district. Because what I found is that a lobbyist can be important in sharing information, but nothing moves legislators more than real folks living in a community or that have those issues or have problems that need to be solved. And so, we had folks from across the district that came to Austin that helped us, and it was something I just felt was organic, that we felt like that's how you get things done. And we went along and checked off our list in education, everything from increasing teacher pay to standing up all-day pre-K throughout the state of Texas, buying down their property tax rate to put more money back in the pockets of folks so they can invest it and start a business or send their kids to school. Also, one of the most important things I feel like that we did was we were able to increase and restore some funding to Texas A&M Central Texas. Texas A&M Central Texas is arguably one of the greatest assets we have because it is an institution that is simply doing very well what the state of Texas asked them to do more than 10 years ago. And that is they're serving, the graduates are about over 70% of the graduates were considered to come from an at-risk background, meaning probably never would graduate from college. 48% are military connected, and you can do that. You can get that degree as the least expensive public bachelor's degree in the state of Texas. It's a win. So when we were able to gather together and restore $3.1 million of funding to allow them to offer more course offerings, to allow them to give their faculty raises, to allow them to serve their students better, I feel like that's a huge win. And that was a difficult process. It involved going in rooms full of skeptics and basically telling the story about how important this institution was to our community, and then trying to win the day. And it took, I believe, 8 tries. But we eventually could tell that story. But it is something you have to do in Austin. You have to advocate for your community. People need to know where you stand, and the community deserves to know where you stand. And so my goal is always to be out and about, to answer any questions, to answer the tough questions, and make sure that folks understand that I'm listening. We may not always agree 100% of the time, but I'll always respect their opinion. And I'm always available, and I always show up.
Well, thank you for that. We appreciate that. And those are great words of wisdom, too.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Okay, our first question, and you kind of hit upon this a little bit, but we'll let you elaborate even more.
Yeah.
What goals would you like to achieve if you are reelected to represent House District 54?
Yeah, absolutely. What we have to do, we're going into a session that is probably a once every 50-year challenge. The COVID pandemic is creating challenges, everything from financial challenges, obviously, to health challenges, our economic disruptions. There's a lot of stress in our communities because of this, because of lockdowns, educational challenges. And so it's a time where the gains we've made are at risk. And so my goal is to go down and sort of examine the effects of COVID, but to also stand strong and keep in place the things we worked so darn hard to accomplish. And that's where I feel like my experience will come into play. I'm a sitting member of the Appropriations Committee, so the additional funding for our university, our public education funding, our funding for our veterans organizations like the Texas Veterans Commission, the funding we put in for military communities through the Disabled Veterans Exemption Reimbursement Program. It's going to take a strong leader that knows how to keep those programs in place. And that work doesn't begin in January. That work has already begun. And being a sitting member of Appropriations, we write the budget for the state of Texas. I'm on the subcommittee that handles veterans issues. It handles the comptroller's office, which includes our reimbursement programs. My positions on those committees are not by accident. They were designed to be able to check the boxes and accomplish the goals we set out to. So that's what we will, that's why I'm running, is we push the ball down the field. We have more work to do. COVID has peeled the onion back, but there will be, I'm telling you, if we don't stand up, if we don't have a representative that will stand up and answer the tough questions and go in and advocate and fight for this district, then we can see things go backwards. But my pledge is to be there, working hard and fighting and winning on these issues, because our community, the things that we've accomplished have been good for this community, I believe, and we need to build on that, and I intend to do that.
Thank you. Question 2, Texas is going into that legislative session with that budget deficit. You hit upon that a little bit already. What will you do to continue to support education, job creation, and local government funding shortfalls?
Yeah, that's a great question. That really hits to the heart of it, and that's where the experience really plays a role. Education funding, I can tell you this. I've spoken with both the Senate Education Committee Chairman Larry Taylor and the Public Education Committee Chairman in the Texas House, Dan Huberty. And both have committed to me that they will not balance the Texas budget on the backs of public education. In other words, our goal will be, and my goal as an appropriator, as a budget writer for the state of Texas, will be to make sure we keep the promises made in HB 3. Because you understand, and many folks do, that our public education system is so much more than education. It really is the opportunity for so many of our youngsters, and we must continue to keep that promise, because we know that if kids learn to read on grade level by grade 3, they're ready to learn. If they continue that path, continue to progress, by the time they graduate in grade 12, they're ready to earn. And so we know that any pullback on public education impacts too many things, and it really impacts the progress we've tried to make. When it comes to higher education, it'll be the same thing. We'll advocate for that. I'm already working with the folks that take care of the Texas A&M regional universities, and that's Texas A&M Central Texas and their leaders, making sure we have a plan to do that. The dollars that go into the Veterans Exemption Reimbursement Program, again, that's where an appropriator like myself can share that story, and I already have with the comptroller of how important it is. When I got to Austin, the program was appropriated at $6.25 million for 2 years, and through hard work by my team and really citizens of Central Texas, it's now at $20 million. So we've increased that. We worked very hard to change the law to get other communities that don't qualify for the reimbursement in. We got the bill through the House, and it stalled in the Senate. We're already working on that. That bill has been rewritten 3 different ways. We have a plan to attack that issue this time. One other thing we did last session that I think is going to prove to be very important for this is on budget night. There were 2 studies that got into the budget on budget night, and one of them was ours. And we have a study the comptroller will release. It was supposed to be out by now, but COVID has pushed it back. It'll come out in December. It basically looks at all the communities in Texas, and it looks at the impact of the exemption. And this gives us all the same data to read from and to work from. And that's been difficult because communities don't always look at the data the same way. So this is going to standardize that. It's been something that's been done for a long time. We're able to get it through. Really proud of that. It's a simple study. It's going to be meaningful. I just want the veterans to know out there that we'll protect this exemption. This is not an issue about the exemption. This is about the state of Texas has made this promise, as we should have, to honor their service. But the state of Texas needs to fund this thing. And so we're funding it to some extent, but we've got to go to full funding. The governor, through his Texas Military Preparedness Commission and his committee to enhance military value in Texas, has identified this issue. And we talk to the governor's office frequently about this. And so we would love to see a comprehensive plan that funded communities for this exemption. But we'll certainly be fighting for House District 54 to make sure that our communities remain strong and that we get more communities in for that reimbursement. Because let's call it what it is. Those dollars need to flow back to communities to serve those veterans that choose to live here. And so we'll continue to do that.
Absolutely. Well, we're excited and we can't wait to see that report too in December. So thank you for that.
We'll share that with you. Yeah.
So, okay. What legislation will you support to help the cities, the counties, and of course the school districts impacted by the veterans tax abatement?
Yeah, we'll continue to, like I said, look at the reimbursement program. What we want to do is expand the amount of money. We want to get as many communities at the table as possible, because what you'll find, and that's where this going out and telling your story. The day after session, I went to San Antonio to talk with literally the day after session to talk with community members there that worked and lived in military communities around San Antonio, because they're feeling the impact as well. El Paso, you can kind of look at the state of Texas and decide where that is. We're going to come together as a coalition, and that's how we're going to tackle this. And what we want to do is we have to make the pie bigger to bring more people in, because education, public safety, infrastructure, and quality of life for communities that serve veterans is really what's on the line. And so, that will be the legislation we'll file. I think we'll bring on more co-authors this time. Representative Shine and I and Representative Sheffield worked on part of it last time. I think we'll see more this time. We already have those relationships. We get tremendous support from our veteran community that come down and help us with this. I mean, one individual, particularly from Harker Heights, is literally has a reputation at the Capitol as a force of nature. John Footman, a great friend. I was stopped in the hallway the day after he left, and they were like, "Man alive, that guy in the Purple Heart stuff, he was a strong advocate." And I said, "I know, that's why he's here." And so that's what I'm talking about. I mean, it's about knowing people in the community that have talents. We have so much talent in House District 54, folks that are just ready to go to work, and they're veterans. They know what it's like to serve, and they know what it's like to be on call. And so when I called, literally in about 2 days, we had a room full of people that really worked a committee for us, that helped us get a bill out of committee that we feel like pushed the ball down the field a long, long ways. And that's the type of action we'll need again. And the team's in place. We're just ready for them to blow the whistle. Let's go.
Awesome. Well, it sounds just like our community and the district is backing our veterans and the mission. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Question number 4, transportation infrastructure funding is crucial to our economic development. You talked about this already as well. How will you balance that need for the infrastructure support and other priorities that you have already discussed that's a shortfall?
Oh, well, one of the things we have to do is keep the Texas energy sector strong. So many of those dollars that come from our vibrant oil and gas business in Texas flows to transportation projects. And, that's really what keeps things going. Infrastructure is sometimes gets muddled, and what are we talking? We're talking about roads, we're talking about sewer, we're talking about, electricity, poles, all that. But what it is, it's economic development. Mm-hmm. It's what it is, because without it, you won't have any. And so, to be able to know these issues, to think about them, you can attack transportation from the source of, transportation. Well, in a perfect world, and there's a pot of money, go get it, and we did. We passed bills to last session, Senator Buckingham and I, that basically protected communities from the cost overruns and the long delays from construction projects that are drug out, and that's important to do. But what's, I think, more important, what's coming is let's look at the economic disruption we've had. What could we do to make it worse? Well, I guarantee you things that penalize the oil and gas business will make that worse. There will be less dollars for transportation. There'll be less dollars for public education. There'll be 2 million Texas jobs lost. And so I just tell everybody to look real closely at the issues that a fundamental understanding of how government in Texas works and the funding streams. And as a member of the Appropriations Committee, I know where the dollars come from. I see the way they can be moved around. And so, that will be what we'll have to do, is we'll have to make sure that we keep those funding streams growing, because as our community grows, our infrastructure needs become more and more. Infrastructure, big issue there is going to be water. We've got new water treatment plants on the rise and will be opening soon. That's going to be helpful. We also have to look at a big portion of Bell County survives on groundwater. That's well water. Where I live is well water. So, and there's areas in those regions that could be developed, and the value of folks' property is literally driven by the ability to provide water. So that's another key infrastructure piece. I think the other thing that we have to always keep in mind with infrastructure is to make sure that our cities are strong and that our cities have the leaders that are lobbying KTEMPO, that are working on our metropolitan planning organization to keep our projects in line. We're working together. We're all already have a team there that we work with to make sure that projects that are needed for this area, that we have strong advocates for it. And so it is a local level effort, and it is a state level effort, and there's even some federal level issues because some of that funding flows through to I-14 and all of that. None of it can be separated. It's all one big team.
Perfect, and I hope that everybody is getting a little piece of education here too today, so thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
You have served on 3 Texas House committees in 2019 to current.
Yeah.
Which of these committee assignments are you most proud of and why?
Oh, it would be, I serve on the Appropriations Committee, which is the budget writing committee. I serve on Ag and Livestock, and being a veterinarian by day, that committee was wonderful. We worked on so many issues. We worked on issues involving the hemp industry in Texas. We worked on issues to make sure on some eminent domain issues. We worked on issues involving animals, and that for me, of course, is a passion of mine, and so that was very important. I also serve on local and consent calendars. That's a procedural committee in the Texas House. It's made up of a group of members that sets a calendar for local bills. And local bills are basically those that are considered to be very particular to an individual district. And one example of a local bill that we passed, my Senator Buckingham, Representative Shine, and myself, was the naming of I-14 as the 1st Cab Division Veterans Highway.
Awesome.
And that was something that seems like a sign on the road, but I thought it was a tremendous way to honor those folks that choose to make this area their home. And what I learned in Austin, nothing is easy. Yeah, we have a saying that you could file a bill that says the sky is blue, and you have 9 people in your office either saying no, it's not, or what do you really mean. Mm-hmm. But that's also the good process. That's the part where the experience comes in, is because to understand that because you have a great idea, you have to go sell that idea, because they are literally professional skeptics. And what I believe makes government good is the grind. We don't need legislation by anecdote or emotion. We need legislation that is filed in a meaningful, thoughtful way, that we understand the good things that it can do and the bad things that it can do, and then weigh them. And then take your issues to other members, and it's a debate. It's 140 days of debate. And there are extremely skilled folks in the Texas House. And one of my greatest experiences was to learn from folks that really knew how to get things done. I didn't reinvent the wheel. I sat down and looked at who was good at the job, and then I said, that's the way you do it. and then take the issues that you care about or the ones that our community needs, and then move forward with that. And so that was important. Probably from the committees, though, I think the Appropriations Committee, and that's the one I will seek to serve on next time again, because there was where we made so many gains on education funding for both public ed, our pre-K through 12, or pre-K 3 through 12 now, and career and technology. We also got our gains through appropriations for our retired teachers. Our retired teachers got a 13th check. We also put more money in their system to make it actuarially sound, and we created a pathway where retired teachers can get a cost of living increase. All these things need to be protected. We've got to work on them. We've got to be thoughtful and smart. We can do that through appropriations. Our veterans issues, Veterans Commission, last time I was able to get about $12.5 million more dollars into that. We made more robust the Veterans Entrepreneurship Program. What community is a better example of that than Harker Heights? I mean, where we have so many veterans that are living that second career, that second life, that second dream. And they literally are the most successful people in our communities. And so this Veterans Entrepreneurship Program gives veterans the tools that can be provided by the state of Texas to business plan, to get access to capital, to stand their businesses up. Other veterans that come together to say, wow, I stubbed my toe doing this, don't do that, do this. That's important. We stood up a women's veterans program, understanding that there are unique needs of women that have served, and there are so many in our community. So, through the appropriations process, my goal is to keep these programs, protect them, and keep them stood up and functioning at a very, very high level. We have great opportunities here, and I tell you what, this is not the time to drop the ball. If you look at Army Futures Command in Austin, if you look at Operational Test Command, and then our great university sitting right between them, I'm telling you, good things are on the horizon. If we take our eye off the ball and we get into just partisan politics, we will lose. And we've got to stay focused on these things, because we have economic development opportunities and we have ways to bring jobs to this area that'll be really, really special. And that's what I intend to do, because that's what our community needs.
Well, Dr. Ruckley, we seem to go right into the next question automatically here, so no, and I think I'm very grateful for that. So what do you feel are the top 3 most important economic factors in District 54? Okay,
number 1 is Fort Hood. Fort Hood impacts the state of Texas economy about $29 billion a year. It's the largest single-site employer. Fort Hood has had its challenges recently. Fort Hood is working hard to correct those issues. They are resolute in finding solutions. Fort Hood is still a great place. This community supports Fort Hood. House District 54, from east to west, supports Fort Hood. I support Fort Hood. We must keep Fort Hood strong. Over time, I think, looking back, when I was a young person serving on, chambers of commerce, I think a lot of times what we did is we wanted to diversify the economy for, let's not rely on Fort Hood. And we do have that diversity of our economy in some instances. But let's not forget the opportunities we have. And really what Fort Hood brings us economically is a workforce that is second to none. And what's happening now, Gina, is people are taking note. Because of Futures Command, because of the great work by Mr. Sabani and Ms. Shine, who are CASAs, in Austin, in this area, that highly skilled workforce of former military or veterans and retired military is now being seen and embraced by Texas business. And so, to me, that linkage of Futures Command, Texas A&M Central Texas, Innovation District, Research Park, Operational Test Command, dream it in Austin, refine it at Texas A&M Central Texas, put it in the hands of a soldier at Fort Hood. Wow, we need to tweak it here, take it back to the Research Park, tweak it. Boom, we've got that dream to development time down to move at the pace, at the tempo that we have to in this economy. The tempo that the defense of this nation demands. We have a cybersecurity research contract now at the university that will actually be looking at all of the software that's placed in the new generation of weaponry and systems for the Army to make sure that it can't be hacked by the enemy. Again, that's another piece. It's all coming together. If we think, I'm a real simple person. I think one thing leads to another. And so that's the way I see it. And that's my dream. And that's what whatever legislation, whether it be the $50 million that on appropriations to help get for Texas A&M in College Station, to put in the George W. Bush Combat Development Center, where they at Texas A&M now are working with Futures Command on hypersonics. Well, that will absolutely flow back to Fort Hood and the surrounding area. So General Robert Shoemaker taught me this a long time ago. I was a young member of the Greater Killeen Chamber of Commerce. I was at a meeting and he was talking about something in Copper's Cove. And this is full disclosure. And I remember saying, well, why are we working and worrying so hard about something in Copper's Cove? And General Shoemaker pulled me aside and he said, you're young and you're competitive, but let me tell you, the future of our region is regional thinking. And wow, could that not be more true today? And he didn't say it quite that nice. But I tell you what, he was an unbelievable mentor and man. And so for me, for that day on, we can't look at things as this community gets that's a win, we lose. I believe that when wins occur for House District 54, it helps all of us. And we had better start thinking that way. We had better start working together and making sure that we can be as proud for Killeen as they are as Harker Heights, as vice versa, and Lomita and Lampasas and Salado, because I'm telling you, we are connected. COVID has connected us in ways we never dreamed. And these connections won't just disappear when finally the masks can go and the vaccine's available. We must be connected, and and I think that's what's beautiful about this area is that there's a little bit of button heads and competition, and that's healthy because competition is healthy. But I think when it comes down to it, we all get together and we all pull the same direction, and that's the way I lead. It's never about dividing. It's about bringing people together. It's putting the people out front that are the smart ones and that can get the job done. And if I'm behind the scenes, that's fine. I don't want the credit, just want the results.
Thank you for that. Question number 7. What are some of the items that you have worked on or that you plan to make priority if reelected? And I know you've hit upon that,
sure.
but now you can expand.
Yeah, it's going to be, there's a couple of things. Okay, we're going to protect the programs and the gains we made. Again, we will not balance the budget in the state of Texas on the backs of public education. We can't do it. We've got Senate Committee Chair, Texas House Public Ed Committee Chair, both of them agreeing on that. As appropriators, we understand that. We made a promise, we have to keep the promise. We have to honor the promise to our veterans in this area. We're going to do that. We're going to protect the gains we made to higher education, to our veterans, to our schools. And so, that's important. The other thing that we have to do, and I think we have to understand, is that there will be some sort of police reform. I'm working on a bill right now. I think it's something that we've all seen, some horrific events in this country, and I think it has shaken us all. I'm proud of this community for, again, staying together. I think that we have. I have had some of the most deeply personal, wonderful conversations through this that I've ever had in my life, and they will be relationships that I'll treasure till the day I die, of folks that came to me that expressed real pain, real grief, and fear for the future. And so I'm working on a bill now to be co-authored by another member that will directly impact transparency for police officers. In other words, when they move from department to department, the same way a teacher's record of past misconduct is easy to obtain, we'll do that for police officers so that communities can have a good understanding and have a sense of transparency and a sense of confidence in the folks that we hire to protect and to service. At times like this, we can't take resources from our police departments. We have to absolutely invest in our security and our law enforcement folks. It's just too important. And so I stand with that. I publicly declared it. I will stand with our police officers, but that means getting them the resources they need for better training, to really bring back the true spirit of community policing. When we know each other, we treat each other better. And so one of the important things I think we have to do is we've got to make sure that all communities know each other, and that those that are sworn to protect and to serve know that community. And we can do that with resources, but we can't deprive them of resources and expect good change to occur. So we'll definitely be working on that. As far as other things that we'll be working on this session, I work on some on the agriculture side. I work on issues related to truth in labeling for meat. I'm a big advocate for cattle producers. I am a cattle producer myself. I treat my cows like family. It's part of who I am. We're going to have truth in labeling, so when people go to the store, they're going to know exactly what they're getting. That's been a tough. Worked on that last session some. We're going to do it again this session. I feel like it's important for the producers. It's important for consumers to have awareness of what they're eating. I think that's important. We're going to work on more public education bills. Want to make sure that we get a handle on standardized testing. I think COVID has shown us that there are real gaps, and these gaps have been expanded among students, and standardized testing is not the answer. It's not our answer out. A good classroom teacher in front of kids is the ultimate goal. That's what my mother taught me, was that we make education way too complicated. You put a good teacher in front of kids and parents that'll support, and kids will learn. They got to feel safe, they got to be fed, they've got to be nurtured, and they got to be loved. But a good teacher in front of kids with parental community support, that's where it works. Standardized testing takes too many days out of the year. I'm not sure we get as much information out of it as we should for the cost. And what we see a lot of times is we see kids that we've built such anxiety into them over this testing that I think it's counterproductive. And so my goal is that a good teacher with a good principal, they know how the kids are performing. We need accountability, but I think it needs to be progress-based. I think it needs to be little short tests that TEA can gather the results. Because to me, Texas Education Agency ought to be a resource to our local schools. They ought to say, Killeen ISD and 8th graders are struggling with 8th grade math. What can we do to help you? Not you're struggling with 8th grade math, boom, we're going to mark your report card. See, I don't think we learn anything from that, and it doesn't get government involved in helping our students the way it ought to. And so that's one of the other things that myself and other legislators are working on real strong, to use this opportunity from COVID to understand how we can do school better. I think you're going to see some efforts to have some online learning academies. I think COVID has exposed the fact that kids can learn different ways. I am a strong supporter of our kids being back in school. But there are certain circumstances where we may have very unique scheduling, and we may have kids that need to work and go to school at the same time. And so I think we need to build a model and take a look at some of that as well.
Very good. Well, I'm going to allow you to speak to our audience and tell them why they should go vote for Dr. Brad Buckley.
Well, first of all, it's been an honor to serve you in the Texas House of Representatives. It really is an honor of a lifetime. I have enjoyed every minute of it. What I want you to take away from this, hopefully, is just how serious I take this job. I have a day job as a veterinarian, but I have spent as much time as necessary to make sure that I'm always available and I'm always there to serve the citizens of House District 54. I feel like that we made great strides. We made great strides in public education, our retired teachers, for our universities, for our veterans, on property tax reform, on making sure we have safe communities. And I want to go back to protect those and build upon those. to make sure that we become the best region in the state of Texas. We have unbelievable opportunities that we can capitalize on if we all work together and keep our eye on the ball. Our relationship with Fort Hood, the tremendous veteran community that we have, the workforce that we have, we can build the type of economy in this region that we wanted to build for a long, long time. And so I just humbly ask for your support in the election. I ask for you to send me back to Austin. Hold me accountable. I'm always available. My cell phone number is 254-289-4464. Call me with any questions you have. That's what we do here. If I want you to know that I will always answer your question. If we disagree, we will respectfully disagree. But what I found when we meet face to face and we talk about it, we agree on about 90% of everything. And when we decide collectively as a community that we want to solve problems, the problems get solved. So it's an honor to serve you. I look forward to going back to Austin and working very hard in a challenging environment and a challenging session. And I will work as hard as I can for you. Thank you very, very much, and God bless you.
Sir, thank you today.
You bet.
For not only making the time to come to the chamber,
Sure.
but for informing us
Sure.
and keeping us up to date on the work that you have done
Yeah.
and the work that you plan on doing.
That's right.
So, thank you, and as a friendly reminder, please get out and vote on November the 3rd.